So we've already gone over what we're producing, and then I think when we're looking at different markets, it will see if the current market is flooded. Over here, you guys have a lot of different opportunities with Fort Drum. In Fort John, you're not very far from Syracuse, so you have a lot of options too if you get to sell products outside the area. Do you feel like when it comes down to your products, the market is flooded with produce or honey? At this point, you know that there's a lot of room for expansion when it comes down to it. So when we're thinking about marketing, we always think about the 4 Ps: is price, product, promotion, and place. So what's your price and how do we determine what our price is going to be? What we're producing, does it cover your costs plus pay yourself? I think that's one thing that we always forget. We do all this work, but we never pay ourselves. And is the price reasonable for your market? So that's a great example there. Is it reasonable for the market for the people that are buying it there when you're kind of wholesaling it? How are some ways for us to determine price out there? And that's looking at all of your input costs into developing your product. You know, if you're growing it, your seed, your fertilizer. If you're starting plants and you have to use soil, it's their time for starting all the plants, all the watering it. Technically, you should be writing all that information down. It's tough to do that because if you look at it, it's depressing sometimes what you're going to be making out of it. So you definitely at least want to be able to get back what you're putting into whatever you're growing, producing. And the reason why we always tell people to pay themselves is because if you get hurt, you need somebody else to do it. So having some type of backup plan, because if you get hurt is the idea of putting the cost into it. And then determining if the price is reasonable for your market, and I'd probably repeat some of these things in some of the other slides, is reasonable for up here versus reasonable down in New York City or another bigger market you might think of jumping into, and how far you want to be marketing your product. And then the product, what are you selling? What's the quality of your product, and how much product do you have available to sell? You know, I've worked with the wine industry, and I remember years ago sitting in on meetings for the wine industry, and the new wineries were really smart about holding product back in that giant jump into let's sell these into restaurants, let's try to sell these into different liquor stores, because they want to make sure that they brought people to their winery and try to attract them first, and to be slowly brought up, make sure they had enough products available. So you want to think about how you're going to slowly grow your operation to make sure that you have enough available product to sell. And then the quality of your product, making sure that the quality every single year is very consistent. You just don't want to get a reputation of it went really well the first year, the second year, and then the third year stuff starts going downhill. How are you going to advertise your product? This is your promotion piece. Is it going to be websites, social media, word of mouth, newspapers, signage on the road? Advertising is big. You don't have to spend a lot of money in advertising. Even with social media, I've used like Facebook. I'm used for Facebook Boost out there, and we're doing a visual marketing one too. So I'll be able to show people like on a map of where my location is. You can do a 50-mile radius. You can move that boost around, and so I can move the boost around. If I move it too far into the Adirondacks, I'm not going to get anybody that's going to see the advertisement that I'm putting on Facebook. If I move it a little bit towards the right, I'm going to hit towards Burlington. If I move up a little bit towards the left, up towards like the north part, I'm going to hit Montreal, the whole Quebec area. Move it too far south, and we're just going to get to know the Adirondack. And the Facebook Boost, I've brought people in from Vermont and Quebec to UPick. So there is, I probably spent maybe like $100 or $150 last year just building up my social media presence. It's still small, but bringing in people that will hopefully down the road do more word of mouth advertise it and stuff. And then place where you plan to sell your products to, who are your customers, and then what are they looking to purchase. So the place is, for your farmers markets, your farm stands, a produce auction, a food hub, or other wholesale markets that are out there. So I want to go over some, for us to kind of think about our pros and cons of selling into different markets that are out there. So the first one is CSA, the Community Supported Agriculture. Do you guys know what a CSA is by chance? So what a CSA is basically, it's if you have a farm and you're producing, example, produce, there's all those overhead costs. You have seed, fertilizer, labor before you're even going to make any money on the product. So the CSA operation is you kind of advertise in the fall that you're going to be setting up your operation and have products available, and the community pays into your operation. So you have to figure out what type of fee is. I've seen CSA from anywhere like $150 to $1,200, depending on where you're located. And you're basically, people are giving you the money to be able to start planting. And then throughout the growing season, which I've had a CSA in the past, it was from the end of June, beginning of July, until like the first week of October. I would go to the farm every single week and pick up a basket of produce. CSAs are all set up in different formats. Some of them are at will. So you show up to the farm, you can pick as much product as you want and bring it back. So it's great if you want to use canning, you've got a big family to provide for. Some of them are like a whole, they're whole or half share, and a whole share might be a certain amount of products, like 20 different products for the week, and then a half share might be 10 different products. And then there's also different CSAs where you kind of pay your money, it goes onto a card, and it's like a swipe system. The only thing is, whatever you decide for a CSA structure is really consider like how your operation is going to run down the road, because people are used to going to your operation and picking up an at-will CSA and pick up as much as they want, and then 5 years later down the road, you go, I want to do the card method. People are going to see like that pepper costs $2.50 or something. They're just going to see that the price is a lot more. They're not going to think they have as good as a deal as they started out. So that's just my warning about however you think about things. If you sit on CSA, how you want to structure it. So, well, pros and cons. Anybody have pros and cons?
What does CSA stand for?
Community Supported Agriculture. Community Sustainable Agriculture. And then, what's some pros and cons for a UPick operation? Definitely liability. Everything you want to, when it comes down to any type of product you have out there, you want to have insurance and stuff. And that was my whole reason for not wanting to do UPick for a number of years. It's like, oh, I'll come and pick the grapes and stuff. You don't have to harvest them. And I was like, trip and fall. I don't want to lose my operation. You definitely, no matter what you're trying to sell, you want to have insurance on, because insurance company wants to know what you're producing out there. But with a UPick operation, the liability would be not something, it's a con. It's kind of nice, like the pro is like interaction with the public, and they can, like, you get the story of your operation, just like when you get tours. So that's a really nice to get the feeling that people will come back from year to year because they had that really good experience. UPick, though, it does usually start off slow, and you have to develop it over a number of years and have something to really attract them in. I felt like with UPick, with my operation, one of the issues is you have to wait for people to show up, just like with any type of farm stand operation. So it's hard to continue to do work on the farm and do your own, your own, be there for the people. So having that, and also letting people roam through your property, that was a little tough, I'll tell you. Having people just walk around and do what they wanted to do. I kind of just let them take them to where they would pick for grapes, and I just walked away, let them do what they want, and then we talk at the end when they're paying and stuff, and it's that same type of interaction. So, what about selling into a grocery store operation? Yeah, it's like selling into one of those grocery stores. It's great in the fact that you'll have a potential market for it, maybe a sustainable market over time. You're not going to get like a retail price, you're going to get a wholesale price when you're selling into a grocery store. They also sometimes require different certifications. So if you're doing produce, most likely on some of the bigger chains, like Fresh Outlet, Hannaford, Wagner, they're going to want GAP certification, which is food safety certification out there. So those type of operations, those are some things you can think of, but there is funding out there to get that type of certification in your state, up to $1,000. Cooperative, there's cooperatives that are out there, so you're working with other businesses to sell your products. Your farm stands, there's different setups with farm stands. You can put a farm stand on the side of the road and have a little pail for them to put your money in, and hopefully your product and your money comes back. So that's something negative sometimes with a farm stand that's not manned. But then you can also have like a self-manned farm stands, which then you're having interaction with the customers. I work with the St. Lawrence Valley Produce Auction, which is up in North Bangor. It's about a 2-hour drive from here. And the deal with a produce auction is a market where you can wholesale your product to, and the idea is to be at a fair market price. You basically bring your product into the auction. It's auctioned off. There's no worrying about dealing with any buyers, distributors when it comes down to it. And the idea behind a produce auction is you get to have to spend less time marketing. You just grow your products and then bring it to it, and then you get money back.
So who are the buyers?
Buyers at usually a produce auction are sometimes it's like smaller grocery stores, restaurants, people from farm stands. So some people grow certain crops from the farm stands, and then they add additional produce into their farm stands. Or some people have farm stands and they don't grow anything; they just buy it at a produce auction. And produce auctions have anywhere from bedding plants, so like hanging baskets, annuals that are in that May, June time period, then vegetables, and then all the pumpkins, ornamental stuff for the fall, and mums. And then we're gonna do like a look at a case study at the end part about farmers markets. With some pros and cons behind a farmers market. Restaurants. Maybe a pros and cons behind a restaurant setup. Yeah, and that's the thing with the restaurant business. Is you have to find those niche markets. So where I live very close to Lake Placid, so they do buy local and advertise on their menu, so the customers appreciate that. That is a really hard barrier to take it jump down when you have somebody who just shows up at a certain time of the day every single week and drops off the product and consistent product, because they're looking at a really consistent product, because they know if they are buying like a flat of tomatoes, that flat from Cisco or Renzi's is consistent, exactly what it looks like, exactly what it weighs, and a chef can know exactly how many slices almost they can get out of it. It comes down to it. So it's the cost behind all of that product they're buying. And a distributor or broker. Some pros behind that is you work with a distributor broker and they deal with all the marketing, getting rid of the product and to it. Con is that you don't have total control over where that product is going. So depending on how you want to run your operation. And the quality too, right? Okay, too. I have a couple of neighbors who do drummers, so. So when we have our products, we have to think about our target market. Who will buy my product? Why will they buy my product? What will they pay for the product? And where do they expect to find the product overall? And then where will products be sold? So we kind of mentioned these different outlets. And I think that the thing to think about is where is it going to be? It's going to be sold locally within an hour or so, or are we looking for products that are outside Northern New York? And then product development, what am I going to market? So what your product, what is the best method of packaging and presenting a product? So although you guys want to do produce, you could always potentially do value-added products down the road. You would just have to be doing the value-added products in like a certified kitchen. So there's always potential to continue. It's like you like growing something in particular. I have one farmer that likes to grow like hot peppers, and so she's kind of played with doing like a hot pepper jelly. So there's like a whole process behind that. So think about whatever you're growing, what it could potentially turn into, because usually doing value-added products, you get a better price point on that, usually. So you'd have to think about how the packaging, what you need for the need and what type of niche market, shelving space. When we've gone down to like different parts of like down into New York City and talk to distributors and stuff, they really want you to think about how that product potentially could fit onto a shelf, because some shelving space are this big and some are this big. So however big your, think about where your product could end up being on a shelf on the long run. Then your packaging and branding. We had a strategic marketing conference up in Lake Placid last fall, and they talked a lot about packaging, branding, especially the ability to use like recycled. Make sure that you're packaging stuff in recyclable products down the road, something that can be reused. Sometimes when you do like one of those CSA structures, is you actually have a bucket. You buy enough buckets that every single week, your person's either bringing their bucket, or if you have enough buckets, you already have their CSA all filled up, and then they just take it with them. So we're trying to think of different ways to reuse things. And then, so food marketing is big. I think we've all bought like maybe Kraft mac and cheese, McDonald's, you know, had the type of soda products that are out there. When they, over the years, you've always seen these different products continue to develop. Like that Coca-Cola or Diet Pepsi isn't the same one that was 20 years ago. So when you're thinking about creating a brand and stuff, think about how these big companies have invested a lot of money to redo their branding. It's frustrating to think they put out a lot of money and then find out a year or two later, my branding isn't gonna sustain with the market I'm going to. Because it might work, your branding, your labeling might work up here, but it might not be able to work outside the area. I know between going down and meeting with distributors down in New York City, Kathy and I were at the International Food Show at the Javits Center. There were things that were mentioned, and one of the things were we really like a lot of the products, but it really the labeling, the branding needs to be improved on the product to go into like the New York City market. So it's frustrating to spend money and then find out that a year or two later that it's not going to work for your potential market down the road. But there's a reason why a lot of these companies have invested a lot of money into their marketing. And this is just a continuum of like doing the branding. the biggest one that I always see is the Crown maple syrup. That is down in New York City, like all over the place. It's not the traditional maple syrup that we always see with the plastic bottle, which is my buy up here. I love it. This is almost too fancy for me, but with a Crown label, but this is what the market is looking for. The Hudson Valley, the cheese up there, that actually, I've been eating that cheese probably for at least I feel like they've been in operation at least 10 years, because they're right around the corner from my they used to be around the corner from my best friend's place, and they sell their stuff all over the place. So just think about what type of labeling you're going to be using over time, and what type of message it's going to send to potential buyers. And then we're all selling local right now. How do we feel like the local presence? That's something that's really important.
It's big for me.
Yeah. The local presence, even for us as consumers, buying local, we want to support our other farms in the area. So, you know, I think that having that local presence you guys are doing is great, and then just be able to continue on that. And I think the biggest thing about local is, what do people consider local? Is it?
On the other street is 50-mile radius.
So it's 50 miles. Sometimes it's within, like, sometimes it's been mentioned up here, it's in the Adirondacks, it's like the blue line. That's what's considered local. 200 miles. Some of the bigger chains out there sometimes think that it's anything within the United States is local. So local has a different meaning to everybody that is out there. And it's, I think when it comes down to is what people feel comfortable with, and also since you guys are already going to be doing it now, or be doing it, is making that connection with the people, knowing what type of way you're growing your produce, or how you're taking care of your honeybees. That's what they really want to hear about. So, and then I think also this is more bigger scale, is going into how it's communicating to your customers. I mean, we've all stood in front of one of these before, lots of times, every single day of the week some days. And, you know, there's certain products that stick out to us, and some they don't, and we might never even consider buying them at all. So what's going to be looking in the package and stuff, and how it's going to be displayed on the shelf. And then also how it's being marketed, communicating other brands, label certifications, and then paid media, free media, social media. Like in New York State, I think we have a great opportunity that's out there. It's the New York State certified, New York State Grown Certified program, which you can get every single product out there under the New York State Grown Certified. Each product has a different certification process. Then things to think about when you're doing marketing your product is their transportation, is how long of a distance you want to be sending your product to. You want people just be coming to you. Makes it a lot easier on transporting your product. You have to think about if it's a product's going to be trucked or shipped. Like, I know for honey that probably would cost a lot in shipping costs to send that out. So, but I know that in Lewis County, they have done some work in sending maple syrup and stuff overseas. So there's options out there and support if you wanted to ship your product in country or out of state. The cost behind transportation or shipping, product stability. If you had like a cheese or a yogurt or meat, and then thinking about finding new markets, so I would say whatever you guys are going to do, start small and slowly get bigger. But if you're going to be continuing, you should have a market plan in place, but especially if you're going to look for finding different markets, is thinking about short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, and don't get too big. Start small, then gradually get bigger. develop a marketing plan and think about how your market retention is going to be. And then when you're finding a new market, you need to think about if that price is going to work. So if you're going to work through like a distributor, they're going to ask you at your first meeting what the price is behind the information, what the product specs are, and then like what they're going to want samples. So that applies for anywhere that you're taking in, going into. They're going to want to try samples of your product. And sometimes, like if you're going to grow in produce and you're going to want to work with a chef and you've got some vegetable, you should have enough sample size so they can like work with it a little bit. And then make sure that when they're going to ask you about ordering the quantity that they're going to want. Are you going to be able to send that out to market? And then how your orders are going to be handled. Sometimes you might not need to hit right on the spot. It might be like a 30, 60 days turnaround. Spend time talking to other people, especially when you start working in certain places to see if they have the reputation. So, and then figure out the best process of this. Is that process going to work for 30, 60 days, or if they pay you right on the spot, which would be great, or ahead of time. That would even be better because you get paid up before you brought your product to them. And then we can mention different certifications. So New York State Grown Certified, Organic, Natural, GAPS, which is Good Agricultural Practices, Grass-Fed, Free Range, and Certified Naturally Grown. They all mean something different to a consumer. Some people say, okay, organic, they don't understand what's really behind the process of growing organically or natural or certified naturally grown. So I think having a really good connection with the people that are the consumers is like the best approach. But some of these certifications are going to mean a lot on your packaging. So the next section is just choosing and evaluating marketing channels. This is more of a case study. This was put together by Matt LaRue. He is down in Tompkins County, and he's doing the marketing specialist. And so when he did this project, he got funding from the Farm Viability Institution. So we kind of already went over the different markets that are out there. I'm not going to go over that again. So how do you evaluate a market opportunity, which I'm glad you guys are doing produce, because then it helps to be more relative. I'm sorry, it doesn't relate as much to honey, but it does in some ways because it has selling into farmers markets, and you know how that process has gone for you. So you've got six interacting factors impacting the performance of market channels, including, and this is looking at selling into a farmer's market. Price and profit, you get $500 worth per hour. No, there's more though. It's cost you $300 to sell into that market. So that's your associated costs. Your sales volume, it's only 1 hour per week. Labor requirements, it takes 12 hours to prepare for that market. And then risk, if it rains, no customers come. And then you've got your lifestyle preferences. So those are the 6 factors: the price for profit, associated costs, sales volume, labor requirements, and risk that you would kind of be taking into any type of market chain. And this was an idea of like selling into a 1 hour farmer's market. So all markets out there are potentially moving to targets when it comes down to it. You have to determine which channel is the best. We've already kind of gone over that a lot, but A wholesale market, you have to have higher volume, but you're going to get a lower price point. So like selling into like a produce auction, you don't get too big in how much you're selling into it, but you definitely want to bring a larger quantity than a bushel of something. You want to be a couple bushels when it comes down to it. If you're selling direct, it's at a farm stands, you can charge a higher price point but have lower volume when it comes down to it. So it's you have to figure out what's going to be the best market. Maybe it's good to diversify a little bit, have a little bit in each little pocket out there, and not just put all your eggs in one basket. So when you're looking at direct marketing, like especially with CSAs, they sometimes do like they grow 30 or 40 different crops when it comes down to it to make their customers all happy that they have the different crop diversity. So I'm just going to go through like a CSA as a direct market. Consumer interaction. They're already there for a certain reason. They want to know about the lifestyle of being a farmer, how it's been going through the season, how it's been going through the week. You usually get a higher price point, lower volume, and then the customer understands like that they're going to have to take and do some of the cleaning, storage, packaging, and consistency. It doesn't have to be there like you have to have on a wholesale basis. Wholesale basis, you can grow like one crop, two crops, and that's all you concentrate on. You have less customer interaction. You might just be working with a distributor, or just one particular restaurant. Your price can be lower, your volume's going to be higher, but they want to see a clean, sorted, nicely packaged, consistent product from they're not going to want to take any side effects. So during this project that Matt did, he used the methodology he used. He worked with one farm in particular and looked at their overall markets for the season, and they did labor logs, which the employees filled out, and we're going to look at one of those next. And then they collected gross sales and mileage per week. They did information ranking on lifestyle and risk, and then they collected weights on each of the ranking categories. The last two, the lifestyle and risk and the ranking, I kind of kept out of the presentation for this time. And then why do labor logs? So labor is the largest marketing expense. You need to have consistent unity in format. The operators tell hired help to complete the form. That was the idea behind doing these labor logs. And then each employee filled out their own sheets. So it was done so they were, in the operation, there were a number of this done for their products. So they looked at the entire process of harvesting, processing, packaging, travel and delivery time, and sales time for each of these different markets. And then we're going to look at the CSAs, Ithaca's farmers markets, restaurants, and others. So the first part is looking at the sales volume by channel. So you can see that overall for the week, the sales volume the most was for the CSAs. And this is like the way that they were able to determine which one through which. So the Lockheed Glen Farmers Market, the restaurant, Ithaca's Farmers Market, Ithaca's Farmers Market, Tuesday, and the Pony Farmers Market. And they did this, I think this was done over the growing season to give an idea of overall what their imports were. And we're going to look at one that compares the two. So restaurants took the less amount of labor hours, but the Corning Farmers Market 19.8 hours a week. So by looking at the volume and the labor volume of sales and labor, to determine what their next step was going to be. So you can see that with the CSA, 18% of weekly labor and 45% of weekly sales. So ideally, you'd want to keep that. If you had to do a comparison of what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of, you definitely want to keep that CSA going for them. And then you have the Walking Glens Farmers Market, 13% of weekly labor and only 5% of weekly gross sales. Labor hours, 23 for picking the farmers market on a Tuesday. Gross sales only 14. And then the Ithaca Farmers Market. It kind of shows that, and this is kind of, I've seen this at other farmers market, and I get a lot of phone calls too from people asking, like, the farmers market's not doing as well. Like, and there's so many variables behind a farmers market, because as you know, like, it takes so much to prepare for a farmers market when it comes down to it. And then you're relying on those customers to show up each week. You're relying that it doesn't rain. I know my mom was a market manager at the Keysville Farmers Market, and the first year there was a lot of energy behind it. The vendors had decent sales and everything. Second year it rained a lot, so the customers didn't show up as much, and it slowly went, over the years it slowly went down, and we decided it wasn't working for the vendors to show up every single week. So I think in the beginning there might have been 8 vendors, and it just dwindled down over the time period. So this looks at profit as percentage of gross sales with owner labor value. So the most profitable is the CSAs, the restaurants, and then the farmers markets go ahead and go down from there. So maybe the restaurants you'd want to keep, but it's still between the volume, sales volume, and the your sales volume and your labor behind that. So think about that. So you have to start thinking about considering of market change. What should it be? Reduce participation in the weakest performing channels, increase participation in the best performing channels, and strategic planning combination to maximize sales and reduce risk. I think especially when you're looking at the best performing channels and looking to increase, I think if you're looking still at that CSA, you got to make sure there's potential for a market out there. And there are going to be more people that are willing to buy into that CSA for the next season. So it might be doing well, but just make sure that there's ability to continue to grow into a market. And then when you're looking at your markets, assumptions are okay. Replace the need for high level of details, inventory at the start and inventory at the end, how much waste you're going to have, CSA sales on off season, and then exact product weights and pounds. So it's okay to make assumptions basically on those different things. And then insights on the day. Remember, the farm has control. Make sure you have wash stations and setups, the package size unit, your crop diversity, order minimums, and pricing. So those are all things that you can make determinations on for your operation. And then prioritizing your selling points and stuff. And I've seen this happen before too, and the CSA would be the main one, is figure out where your first market is going to be, and then what your second market's going to be, and be really considerate when it comes down to what you're selling into those markets. So an example is if you have a CSA, so you have people in the community paying into your farm for the season, and they're expecting to go to the farm, pick up your product on a weekly basis, and then they show up at the farmer's market and you're selling product too, and the product looks better at the farmer's market than it did when it came to pick up their CSA. Are those CSA members going to come back next year? Most likely not. So you want to make sure that whatever your priority is, if it's CSA, UPick, wholesale, that you take care of that first market, and then if you have other markets out there, secondary, third markets, just make sure you have prioritizing in how you're going to, continue to do those markets over time to make people happy. And then on market channels assessment, you need to identify your goals and lifestyle preferences. Keep marketing cost and return records, if only for snapshot periods. Value your own time to present an accurate picture of marketing costs. Rank and compare opportunities to maximize profits, and then combine channels to maximize sales. So diversify your different opportunities out there. And this is something that can be found online. It's a guide to marketing channel selection, how to sell through wholesale and direct marketing channels. And this was also put together by Matt Little in Hopkins County.